Hello, everyone. You're listening to a Coffees with Toffees podcast. I'm here to welcome you to our brand new show, the Brewmaster's Draft. It's a show that we talk about all pick, captain's mode, and a little bit about beer that we're having right now. So a little bit of play on words. And I will be the host of the show, Flubb, and my ever-talented co-host, the captain of the Dotp.Devils himself, Kimbrell, will be joining me for the foreseeable future. He will always be with me. And I'm going to go ahead and let him, the man, introduce himself. So, Kimbrell, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone about a little bit about yourself, those of who may not know you yet.
Okay, yeah. I'm Kimbrell. I play for the Dotp.Devils, just a team in 82L. I don't know about talented, but
Don't sell yourself short.
yeah.
Don't sell yourself short.
I don't know. I just kind of like the idea of talking about drafting in general. I feel like it'll help me become a better captain, and I feel like it's always something that's constantly changing with the game of Dota. So I feel like it's an interesting topic. It's one of my favorite parts of the game. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here and see how this podcast goes.
Yeah, I'm very excited too. So for those of you who don't really know me that well, or just kind of getting used to me and the whole brand of Coffees with Toffees in general, I want to give you guys a quick broadcast about who I am. I've been playing Dota original Dota all the way up to Han to Dota 2, so I'm that Han trash guy as well. But I have been playing generally MOBAs for about 11 years. It's closer to 10, it's almost 11. And I've been on teams on and off from all different places. I've gone from the lowest to the highest ever since really I started Han a long time ago. I got very into Dota and very into MOBAs in general and wanted to keep that competitive spirit alive. So those of you who don't know me, I'm very competitive. I generally try to be a nice guy whenever I can, try to lead people through example, and I just love Dota, and don't think I'll ever get tired of it, so I want to talk about it constantly. And that's why I do podcasts and stuff, and bring people like Kimbrell along with me, because he's a good guy, and a good captain. So we will be talking about just our views on it, kind of general ideas that we have throughout Dota, and maybe experience that we've had all the way back when, and kind of just go from a different perspective and kind of offer you guys a different way to look at things. Personally, for those of you who are interested, my MMR is just past 5K a couple weeks ago, and I got all the way up to 5.2, and I'm back down to like 5.044. But you don't have to take my word just because of the number. It doesn't mean I'm any less or worse. We're just here to learn and here to understand. So let's get into the show. Kimbrell, what do you? So let's start off with the draft idea. You just want me to go into it and explain it real quick?
Yeah, if you just want to go into it, I can kind of go off of that, like what I think would counter it, I guess.
Okay. So we're gonna go into the show real quick. I should probably explain this. We're gonna go into three different sections. It's gonna be. Actually, we should mention our beer, right? We should always talk about the beer first.
Oh, absolutely. That's the most important part of the
Right?
entire thing.
Right. I forgot about that. So what beer are you drinking right now, Kimbrell?
I bought a family pack of Shiner. It's just a Texas beer. And the beer that I grabbed out of the fridge without looking ended up it's called Wicked Ram. It's an IPA. It's really good. I really enjoy it. So
Nice. I myself am drinking an Indiana Classic. If you're around from the Bloomington area, it's the Upland Wheat Beer. It's a wheat beer. I mean, I know it's a shame for most beer drinkers to drink wheat beers, but I like wheat beers. So
wheat beer is good. I like it. I don't mind it. It's a very casual, just kind of hanging out type of beer, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like wheat beers, because I'm that casual hanging out kind of guy. So you know. Um, so already we're getting people messaging us on the chat. Fafnir's giving me some trouble about my Ags build on Magnus. So, all right. Well, it's good. It's good starting off. I like to see the comebacks here. Like if you guys ever want to hang out with us, generally we will be doing this always on Twitch, and then we will put it up on podcasts and all that other forms that you guys already all know about. So let's go into the drafts here. Let's go into my idea this week. So this week, I'm going to put forth this new draft idea that I had, and I'm pretty excited about it. It's a Wind Ranger based draft. It's a support draft. So the idea is you get Wind Ranger, Sladar, Ogre Magi, Shadow Fiend, and Drow Ranger. So it's kind of a bowman draft, really. And the idea that I'm going for here is this kind of single target damage that still has some type of team fight, some pickoffs, some split pushing potential, just very good laning presence in the very beginning to kind of shut down anybody in any lane and then go from there and get objectives early to, well, not early, but as early as you possibly can, and kind of have that driving force to win towards the mid to late game, mid late game.
Yeah.
And my idea is to have Wind Ranger as the support, Sladar as the offlaner, Ogre as the hard 5, then have SF as your mid, and then Drow as the carry. And the idea of this is basically have Wind Ranger stay around middle, and you power shot the middle over and over and over, and keep down his regen to low amounts. There's a few ways to counter it, but there's not too many, and I'll get into the bans here in a second on what I would do. But there's that type of aspect of you want to try to keep the person down from mid and let SF basically have a free lane. Drow Ogre is just a very strong lineup in general. They can handle a lot. I would even say that sometimes they can even handle some tri-lanes when built correctly. And if not, they can always have Wind Ranger come down and harass them out of lane as well, giving them an extra stun and an extra really high damage base ability to push people away. The Ogre already has his Ignite, so it's fantastic to push people out. Then Sladar is someone that's kind of gets left in the dust if you have to, or you can have Wind Ranger go help him out. Kind of that roaming Wind Ranger type of ability. I want to get into just the quick bans that I would do in this process as well. I would ban Shadow Demon, Pudge, Templar Assassin, Spirit Breaker, and Luna. So this is kind of what I'm going for. Let's see what Kimbrell has to say about this. What do you think about this draft, Kimbrell?
Okay, I like the bans. I wrote down Pudge being a good pick. I feel like if you are able to pull any of those heroes out of place in general, I feel like that's really good, especially if it's the Drow, obviously. Luna and Shadow Demon are always good bans.
Yeah, they are.
The heroes that I didn't think about Wind Ranger sitting mid and using Power Shot to harass out the hero. But the heroes that I thought of that I think would do well against this kind of a lineup, the biggest one, I feel like Tide would do okay, because like you said, anybody that's going to go in that lane against Drow Ogre is just not going to do well. And so you need somebody that's able to jungle pretty much immediately with Iron Talon, I think. So you would send Tide to the jungle, and he would get a mech. I feel like a mech for the early game to mid game kind of counters that early damage that they're putting out. Also, another huge problem I think with the draft is BKBs. Like most of those heroes need BKBs, especially versus, like, I was picking a Zeus mid. Zeus isn't very popular right now, and I don't think Tide is either, actually. But I felt like a Zeus mid with Arc Lightning, like, you're preventing Slardar from blinking on any of you in like a team fight. Like if they're pushing high ground, there's almost no way unless you have a way to get someone out of position, right? So the three main heroes that I picked in my draft to counter yours was Zeus, Tide, and Phantom Assassin. Just quick burst damage that would easily take out Drow and Shadow Fiend. Yeah, and I think it just kind of prevents, like I said, I think Arc Lightning or Dagger Fam or something would prevent Slardar from being able to blink and initiate. And without any initiation, it's kind of hard to really do much, especially going high ground with the push strat that you have.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just my take. I like the minus armor. I do think it could work. And another issue is against like a high magic damage or just a bursty type team. You don't have like a met carrier or a pipe carrier or anything like that. I think Slardar could build pipe, but I feel like with mech, like I'm not sure who would build that. It's not absolutely necessary, but against a tide, I feel like yeah, you probably need one, especially if he's able to get a good initiation off.
Hmm.
So that's just my take on it.
No, it's a good take. Oh, excuse me. That's one thing I didn't think through. It's burping with beer. Not bad. All right, so
Yeah.
the idea here, I get what you're saying. Definitely, the whole Zeus thing makes sense. The idea of being able to arc lightning. The thing is, though, I think with the static storm nerf, that doesn't really cancel out the blinks like it used to. So you have to like
Right.
physically see the hero beforehand and zap him out. So if you're wanting to get Sladar and like go for the smoke ganks that you're inevitably be planning to do with that draft, it's going to be much harder to actually stop that gank from happening. And unless you have like really good vision, which you can kind of manipulate with a Zeus as that draft happens, and he can kind of take away your sight. He can't necessarily guarantee that they will have sight as well. Um, so I kind of see what you're saying about that. I think what's more problematic about the Zeus is that he is magic damage and he has the explosive out potential that I I would love to see the ideas that come from that explosive magic. See if people would latch onto that as a draft before it even happened. Because I would basically be picking Wind Ranger and Slaughter as my first two picks. And that understanding right there means, oh my god, they have so much damage versus this single target. And would they go just explosive team fight at that point? And that's kind of one thing I would worry about. And that's kind of why I went down the whole like Drow SF type of lineup with it, because you can basically have Drow as a carry type situation and a Wind Ranger support that bonus agility damage that she gets off of that can basically make her a core, and you can have people like split pushing on the towers to kind of prevent that from happening, kind of go around whatever their strength is, and hopefully push way faster because you have Wind Ranger ult, you have Drow, and you have SF, just like three of the best pushers in the game. Um, the only other way that would be a problem is like that generally, you could go stuff like Nature's Prophet and things like that, but Nature's Prophet is kind of in a weak point right now. He doesn't have a lot of strength to what he does. I mean, the right pick for the right time, that makes sense, but he doesn't really offer as much as he used to compared
Right.
to these big, strong heroes now. Um, you said Tide. I agreed the whole like the biggest problem with my draft is the lack of uh, pipe idea because that would be a problem with the whole movement of how you'd be able to stay alive, and if you had a bunch of magic damage you could take it out. But I think that it's actually one of the worst matchups for Tide to go against because I don't know if you've played versus in the off lane versus this situation, but I used to play a bunch of Tide when he was really popular because I was in the off lane a bunch. And the number one pick I hated to go versus was Drow. Personally, like that's my least favorite guy to go up against because Drow just keeps applying the slow and keeps you at a your Kraken shell doesn't really matter if it hits the next arrow's coming and it's gonna slow you again. Plus, he can't get in like with a spell or an ability to be able to be close until he gets a blink dagger. So she can kind of just shoot him out of lane. Yeah, he can go into the jungle, but then you just have Ogre go over there and be Ogre and just say, okay, I'm gonna take your experience and your farm, or you can just kind of go back to lane and die to Drow. Because that's kind of the thing about Ogre, right? Is that he's so tanky and so good at the first like 6 levels that no one in the game can truly kill him unless you have like two people with you, or he like tanks something stupid like an Ursa, like hitting him over and over. But besides that, he has super armor, super regen, just like a big meat machine that just punches people and steals experience from them if they try to do something like that. So that's what I would try to do to like counter your draft, counter the counter. Um, I think though, I mean, there's plenty of things that you could do, obviously, to the draft. Like you were saying, you brought up some really good points. But the thing that I think is the biggest problem and kind of hinges on it is, like you were saying, the whole Pudge. Pudge is just a problem for this draft in general. If you get hooked out of it, it's just horrible. So Pudge could be a problem, or would be a problem, and then that's why I also said Templar Assassin. The thing that's been happening a lot with Wind Ranger as a support is that she like basically uses that ability to harass, right? But if you have the ability to just negate the damage and not have that ticking damage on the TA, then it doesn't matter at all. You can just
Right.
blast her shield away, but it's like, okay, well, I just used some mana for that. That's fine. Um, and that's why I got like the whole Spirit Breaker type thing, and I picked Luna just because God, I hate
Yeah.
SD and Luna. Maybe it's just my
Yeah.
bias at this point.
No, she's a good hero. Even with the nerfs that she's gotten, I still think she's pretty good. So
God, yeah, I hate her, man. I can't stand her. I only pick her whenever people are like, "Yeah, pick me, Luna." I'm like, "Okay, all right, I'll do it, I guess." But yeah, is there any way you'd counter my counters of counters?
I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know, I get what you're saying about Tide. I feel like any offlaner though is going to be stuck in that kind of a position, right? With Drow, like,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
true.
you're really going to be able to stay in lane all that much. Like, I almost immediately you're going to need to go somewhere. And Ogre can contest, but I just that lane Drow Ogre is just like stupid. Like, I just think it's just dumb. Like, it's dumb in a good way. Like, it's a good lane, and as an offlaner, you really can't do anything about it. So I feel like no matter really who you pick, there's not really a place to put them, like other than the jungle, you know.
Yeah, yes, it's true. There is you do kind of have to give up on lanes in that type of situation, and that is a really good point that you brought in, that you can move over in that way. Um, I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, what's the best way to stop this? And I think after all of my reasoning, I think actually Clock might be the best way to stop it, just because he can cog the creeps back to a safe point,
Yeah,
and that's it.
Clock was another hero I thought about. Um, where was I going with that? Yeah, anyway, Clock was another hero I was thinking about. I actually asked one of my teammates how he felt about certain heroes against that draft. I just wanted another opinion, and he felt like Clockwork would be pretty good, except just other, I mean, again, like, you can bring the creep wave back, but I don't know. I just feel like with Ogre, you're able to set under tower and still last hit, right? Like, it doesn't matter. I don't know. I just hate that lane. Like, I don't even like thinking about that lane.
Yeah, yeah, it's super strong, and I mean, I drafted it for a reason. And with, I mean, the real advantage of this draft that I didn't really go into too much, but the idea of it is that they kind of all complement each other in a certain way. Ogre is the obvious idea of that he's just the buff machine and the early game harassment, so he kind of gives the mid game, lets the mid game happen to the degree that you want it to. But Ogre on Drow, obviously, like you were saying, like I was saying, is super strong, and Ogre SF is just crazy good.
Right.
Having
Like, sorry, I just feel like with Ogre, you don't even need a skill. Like, your first and second skill, you just skill once, and then you can just max your bloodlust with a drow in lane and
Oh yeah,
kill everyone. Like, anyway, go ahead.
oh yeah, no, that's exactly how you build it. I mean, that's exactly how it go with abilities and all. You just get those easy points to be able to stun and to slow a little bit, and then just have people. He's the buff machine. I mean, it's the boring way to play, but it's the best way to play.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I hate being on Ogre. It's the walking bloodlust machine.
oh yeah, me too, man. I mean, as captains, whenever I was a captain, and I know you are too, you kind of getting stuck in those positions where like, all right, we have to play the guy that sits there and does nothing, but I can captain the team really well when I do that. But oh god, it's so boring to actually play.
right? No one sees that. No one sees you captaining. You want to show off, but you can't because you're an ogre, and it sucks.
Sometimes the
But
captains get put in the background. You know, they get their shining moment in the draft, and then all right, well, you did your part, I guess. Now you're a buff machine.
I think the main issue I had with the draft was just I think Blink on Slardar is big. Like I think it's a big deal with that draft. I mean, I know smoke inks obviously are going to happen, but just I don't know, just pure initiation. I don't think you have a whole lot unless you land a good shackle shot or they're just out of position or something. So I feel like Blink is definitely a big issue. If Slardar is able to get it, then it's not as big of an issue. But without that, even without that, like you're able to just push down towers. So it's just like I said, you have the walking bloodlust machine, and then all three of these heroes hitting pretty damn hard with a drow aura. So I don't know. It's a pretty good draft. I enjoyed it. I like trying to think about it.
Yeah, and the thing that I really kind of focused around was like having the Wind Ranger kind of become a core, even though she's a support, and like the ability to do that with like it's not called amplify damage anymore in Slaughter. What is it called? It's Corrosive Haze, I think. I used to know all of them. Corrosive Haze.
Corrosive Haze, yeah, that's what it is.
Corrosive Haze. The the Corrosive Haze just makes her auto attacks that much stronger, and then obviously Drow making her buffed up is just insane. So you can basically have Wind Ranger, Sladar just roam together as Ogre just buffs the other two as they're farming. And I thought that was pretty cool. I was pretty excited about that because that's my style of play. Is all right. Let's focus on winning the first 15 minutes as hard as we possibly can, and then go from a giant push to there.
Right. I think another hero that would do well in that kind of draft would be, I think Beastmaster would be okay too, because that's just another attack. Like that's another attack speed aura, right? Like I know you don't have the amplify. Yeah, if you put it off lane with Slardar, like or without Slardar, I feel like that's still a good. I mean, you don't have the amplified or whatever it's called now. I didn't even know that happened. The Corrosive Haze, but I mean, you still have the attack speed and obviously Roar is a good spell. Anyway, I'm just thinking about other heroes that would be good in that kind of draft too.
Yeah, actually, I mean, now that you got on that subject, there's some ideas I had about it in general. Like, I mean, you can switch out Underlord for Sladar. He kind of gives you more of an AoE presence and gives you kind of a guy that kind of can, solidly push in a lane and give you that tankage, that you need.
Underlord was actually a hero I was thinking about replacing Slardar with. I had a couple. It was Underlord and Axe was another one, but I didn't like the Axe so much. But I feel like Underlord is I feel like he's so good, especially with heroes that have like that build Dragonlance, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're able to just, I don't know. His skills are so good for the range with Dragonlance. Like you're able to just push high ground like nobody's business, and then if you get initiated on your ult, gets everyone the hell out of town, and plus you're a Greaves builder. Like I don't know, I like him as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that he kind of offers something to the draft. It goes into a different form, and that's kind of what I like about the draft is that you can go into multiple different ways with it. Because like Wind Ranger is really good right now as a support, and she can still mid off lane, kind of do pretty much any position. The only one I don't really like her in is position 1, but you can kind of still do that even to a point. Real quick, SA51 said, what if you used Venge instead of Wind? Do you like that better? I have my reasons.
It still works. Like I like the idea of being able to just mow down the mid laner and keep them out of that lane and contesting that lane. But Venge, it still works. That's another aura also. Yeah, I like Venge. I think she'd work. I like the Wind Ranger though, but I think I might be a little biased. We haven't played a whole lot of Wind Ranger, and our offlaner's been trying to bring her back. So there's a little bit of bias. Like I want her to be good, so I feel like I would go with Wind Ranger maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I can understand that that there's that hesitance. It's the idea that it's kind of the flavor of the month type thing since it was in the elimination draft, elimination mode from Moonduck and the
Yeah,
DAC. It was in both of them. So
there was like a Sven support too. I don't know if that was in DAC or the captain's draft, but there was a Sven support as well, and that was really cool to
yeah,
watch because they drafted like a Weaver and a Slardar, and the counter was just the Sven support with his war cry. It's like, all right, that's actually really cool.
yeah, that's and that's the kind of drafts that me and you like the innovative style instead of I don't know, man. I get bored of the all right. What are we gonna do? Luna Shadow Demon. All right, let's let this train keep going, and we will eventually be able to take down their towers with this stupid nonsense illusion stuff. Oh God, just
Right, it gets boring, but I mean, it wins you MMR, so it just depends on what you're playing for. So.
it's true. It's true. Uh, but you gotta have something to it. Personally, I don't actually like the Venge on that pick. I mean, you can do that. The thing is, why I chose Wind Ranger is because if you're picking Shadow Fiend, they are very, very susceptible to ganks. If you have someone just be able to sit mid, whether you're using your Ogre or your Wind Ranger to do that, and you have two options to do that with two really great heroes that are capable of letting him have a good game, he just exponentially gets more and more crazy. Now,
Right. How,
now
in your
Venge is
opinion,
pretty good.
how? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Now Venge is pretty good though. So if you have Venge sit mid, there is that opportunity, but he's more of a safety precaution. Like, okay, if they go in, I got a stun to like turn it around on him instead of the output potential of okay, I'm gonna keep this mid at a point where he can't be a part of a gank if they try to gank you.
Right. How how long would you say a support needs to set mid with Shadow Fiend? Just for people that don't really run that a whole lot, because I know there's some teams that pick Shadow Fiend and then get angry when their Shadow Fiend's being ganked constantly and they can't do anything about it.
Yeah, so I mean it's a good idea. Like you so your question is basically how do I stop the ganking from happening? Or like
Well, I mean, basically, what I'm asking, like, how long would you keep a support mid, like with a Wind Ranger and Ogre, with a Shadow Fiend? Like, how long would you keep them there in that lane to make sure Shadow Fiend's able to get what he needs? Would you leave it there during the whole laning phase, the first 2 minutes, to make sure he gets his souls to where he's able to last hit without any contest?
it
Just
de-
leave Wind Ranger mid and just keep that mid laner out of the lane completely forever.
yeah. It depends on what you're trying to do. If they are responding to your Wind Ranger support being mid and having supports come to you, you're doing more of a service by pulling them from another lane and letting your Sladar farm, letting your Drow farm safely. So if you can do that, if you can pull them, then it's actually okay for you to stay there for the entire laning phase, as long as they
Right.
are there as well. But you only really want to stay there for the first like 2, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, somewhere between that line. It depends on how well your Shadow Fiend's doing. One, where he's like at in the lineup, and what you can get. Because a lot of times, what I do as a Wind Ranger is I will get like 3 clarities, sit on the sidelines, don't get any experience. You don't want to take experience from them. Get a ward up near near their high ground, smoke in to be able to place it, and just power shot the mid laner over and over and over from a safe distance. It's 180 damage at level 1. Just insane at level 1 potential. And if you can do that, you can basically keep them at around like 200 health in lane, so they just are just super afraid of the potential of a raise just killing them straight up. So if you can push them out of lane and then move back to go grab the bounty runes, you won't necessarily hit level 2, you'll be a few levels behind, but then you can go into another lane that's safer at that point and get some farm. Because if they don't send someone mid versus the Shadow Fiend and you just basically outlaned the mid laner without any levels, that is going to be the most farmed SF ever. And you've kind of done your job. If you're weak for a little while in the game, you'll come back through the kills and just the potential of what you've created for your team.
Right. Also, you're able, I mean, eventually to farm on your own. You have the drow aura and everything like that. So, I mean,
right.
If you need levels, you're able to take that. Also, being there, you're able to stack for the Shadow Fiend. I know it's a little harder to stack with the every 2-minute creep camps, but yeah, I really like it. I've actually never thought about it. It's a really neat idea, and I know our mid laner Kyrie plays a lot of Shadow Fiends, so it'd be something I'd definitely be willing to try.
You have to be pretty accurate with your shots, though, your power shots, and they can't see you. That's
What are you trying to say?
I mean, no, you're good. You're good. Don't get me wrong, man. I'm just saying, like, make sure they don't have sight on you, because I did that once where I was like, it's not that big a deal, and then they just like dodged everything, and I was completely useless for a game.
Yeah,
which is a huge problem because you have no farm to go back on at that point as a support Wind Ranger. That's like the biggest problem is like you have to be so accurate with it. So those of you who are wanting to try this draft out, if you don't have the power shot down to like a T, don't try it. try a different draft. Seriously, it's gonna be hurtful. But actually, Mr. Blue sent a message and he said that he saw a Centaur carry too. I think I saw that game. Was that?
I saw a Centaur carry a while ago, back when like the Manta illusions still took the tower. Yeah, was still a thing. Like Manta and Centaur was still a thing. But I haven't seen one recently. But I probably just missed it.
I'm pretty sure it was in the DAC tournament. It wasn't even in the elimination. They did it. I'm trying to think of the team who did it. Maybe Mista can help us out here in a second. But I drink from a ham. Also said that they addressed the SD Luna combo in 0.02 pretty well. I don't know if they did. Like,
I mean, Shadow Demon's still a good hero. Like, I've always been a huge Shadow Demon fan. Like, even before he got these, buffs to his egg or to disruption and everything, his illusions. I still think he's a good hero. I still really enjoy him, and the Luna's still a good hero, especially like the night vision. It kind of hurts your first maybe 2 nighttime pushes or something, but I really don't think they did a whole lot. Right. I still think it's strong.
Right. And the just the potential of making your illusions, going up on a base, attacking it over and over and over without any recompense. Like, yeah, you get some gold from it, but you get like half of what a creep is worth, and you don't really get much experience from it. Like, the only time really that nerf hurt anyone for like the whole illusions giving gold and like a tiny bit of XP is versus PL, which is a hero that didn't need to be hurt at all. But if you like echo slammed a PL, it's like, oh man, you just got a shit ton of gold for hitting an R. And I feel like they should have just like made illusions don't do damage to towers. Like, I know that sounds awful, and then like no one would buy that item, but man, Manta has been like the king for what, 5 years now. It's okay for it to go back down again.
Yeah, I have a pretty high win rate with that item as well. So I mean, it's just a good item.
yeah, it's insane. But this is the support side of me. I know you probably get this sometimes too. There's just like certain items and certain builds that I can't stand at all. It's like, I want to face something different than be the guy to, counter this one specific style in this one specific game. It's like, So, all right. Anything else that we haven't talked about the items yet of this draft.
Oh man, yeah.
Forgot one of the most important things. So, you want to guess the items, or do you want me to explain them real quick?
I mean, you can go ahead and explain them. I feel like Hurricane Pike is definitely an item, right? On Drow, at least. Mm-hmm. I would say Shadow Fiend too.
Yep.
I'm actually not sure like what damage items you'd build on drow if you just go just with like a, I don't know, would you go helm at all? I know it's on the damage item, it's an attack speed item, but I'm not sure. Like actually just tell me what you're gonna build.
So I mean, it depends on the heroes that you're facing always. I mean, that's kind of what the idea of items are in general, so it's kind of hard to say too much, but the basic idea, you are right that you want to get those abilities to kind of be farther back. Get those Dragonlance on Drow and SF. Probably almost 100% sure that you're going to get them into Hurricane Pikes as well, just because the maneuverability and how strong that item is right now. The thing is, though, is everyone on this team could build a Force Staff. And Force Staffs are pretty good. It's the other item that's like the king. And
It's
I don't
the
really
best
mind.
item, I think.
Yeah,
That's
right?
just my support self-talking, you know.
Yep. And I kind of like that. I kind of like, okay, there's a guy that's in trouble. Okay, we Force Staff him. He Force Staffs himself. We Force Staff him again. Force Staff him again. Like, you can Force Staff people longer than you can a freaking hook range with Aether Lens. I want a team of Force Staffs. That sounds like the perfect game. But on more of a serious note, you could get Urn on Ogre, have that potential of healing, that extra push heal. You don't really necessarily need the mech if you have that early enough Urn and you're pushing at the right time. It's nice to get the mech, but you don't necessarily have to. And in a pinch, Wind Ranger used to carry mech. And I think where she's at right now, if you go into the whole Guardian Greaves build, she could definitely fulfill that role. I haven't tried it out quite yet because I don't have a team to try out this draft. But I think theoretically, if you put a Guardian's Greaves on her, she would benefit quite a bit from it. Also, you don't necessarily need the damage. You have Drow available to you. You have all this minus armor, so it's not that big a deal. Obviously, like you were saying before, like Sladar has to get a Blink Dagger, and that's kind of the weaker points of the draft, is that if you don't get that Blink Dagger, if you don't have a confident enough Sladar, then you will kind of fall apart from that point on. And Ogre, Ogre, the thing is it depends on what you're facing. Certain explosive drafts that are just like single target magic damage, I would try to pick up the Glimmer Cape on him first and foremost. Otherwise, probably Force Staff. Just pull people away from the combat and kind of go from there. So, any weaknesses you see in this draft or this item build?
No, honestly, not really. I really like the mech idea on Ninja, but like you said, it's certainly not really necessary. Then early Urn on Ogres, I mean, it's good. It's good enough, I think, with the push drafts. Like I said, unless there's just enough burst damage to bring you down, then obviously you can't start earning everyone. That's when a mech is necessary. But yeah, and Ogre is, I feel like, open to build like Aether Force or Urn Force, or honestly, like I feel like he's, besides Force Staff, I feel like you can build almost any support item. Glimmer Cape 2 was another one you mentioned. But yeah, I like all the items, I think. I'm trying to think. Yeah, honestly, there's not one that I wouldn't. I think you would need a BKB on Slardar eventually as well. But besides that, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so we're kind of going to wrap up this captain's draft segment. Next week we will have Kimbrell on at that point for his captain's mode draft. Now we're going to go into the part of the show that's more the all pick section. So Kimbrell is in charge this week, and I'll go next week. But Kimbrell, why don't you talk about how what you would do in all pick, or just talk about your experience in all pick, or the hero that you would pick in all pick.
Okay, I mean, as a support hero, or a support player, I mean, technically,
you like that
support
hero,
right? As a support player, I feel like when you go into all pick games, there's a lot. It's not as much recently, but it still happens where you run into the teams where somebody wants to jungle and then somebody wants mid and everyone's claimed their lanes, and you're just like, I come in all pick as a support player looking to kind of get my carry. Like I want to carry this game just so I can kind of get it out of my system. But no, sometimes you get stuck with, like a 7th position support or something like that. And so that tends to happen to me a lot. And a hero that I really enjoy playing as that kind of position, I really enjoy Winter Wyvern. I just played, and the reason why I talk about this hero is I actually just played it the other day. And you don't necessarily have to do really like get a lot of kills. It's just a matter of being in lane. Like I was in lane with the Animage and I was just by myself. We didn't have a jungler. We had a roaming Mirana. So whatever you want to call it. But we were against a Necro Omni lane, and that just sounds awful. It was awful.
It does.
But we were able to like just keep them back and far enough to where AM's able to farm with the Splinter Blast and then the Arctic Burn. Like I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot that hero can do. And then when you have the roaming Mirana, when she actually did come to our lane, then 2 times out of the entire game, with the slow and everything, you're able to set up pretty good arrows, I would say. So, but I feel like Winter Wyvern's a pretty good hero. Especially in that 6th position support. She builds, I think, just about anything, honestly. I think like a Windlace, starting out, Windlace is always good, I think, on almost any support, but you can go mech on the hero, you can go Force Staff, Glimmer, Urn. I usually just go, I start out with the Windlace, and eventually I get Arcanes, and then I go Glimmer, Urn, and maybe Force Staff. It just kind of depends on the game, but as a 6th position, you're not going to have a whole lot of items. This game we actually ended up eventually doing well enough. I memed and got a divine at with 5 seconds left in the game just to keep my 100% win rate of divine up. Yeah,
nice.
So I don't know. That's just a hero that I really like going to.
Plus, I mean, you got that extra range, so why not have the that extra 250 damage at that super range, right? that Winter Wyvern end up carrying. That'd be an interesting build. That'd be pretty fun. Winter Wyvern carry.
Drink from Aham said, getting your mana item is the big issue on Wyvern. Once you get over that hump, you're good. The hero has a great strength and aggro and just a lot from range. Yeah, I completely agree. That mana item is definitely important. I think stacking the first small camp, if you're against the Omni Necro lane, like I didn't have to pull a ton because they're obviously pushing a ton into us. They were spamming out spells and all that stuff, trying to harass out the AM. So you're able to stack that small camp. At least I was able to, and obviously able to take the farm from it. So the Arcanes actually came at a pretty decent time. And once that happened, it felt like the lane felt fine. And like I said, especially when Mirana came down, like it was easy kills. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
As fun as it can be playing that position.
Yep. Now I think that it's a really good hero, and actually it's kind of funny that you picked Winter Wyvern, because I was kind of going to go into this into Flub Date actually for next week, but might as well just talk about it now. The thing about Winter Wyvern is that he's actually I can kind of see him getting to a point where he's actually really good again, because it was funny in the this weekend in the Battle Cup. I had my team and we were like playing together with a bunch of random people, and actually Wazoo from obviously, and who else was in it? There's a bunch of other people, like Skrunk, one of my old teammates, and things like that. And we made a draft that was all melee. Every single one of the characters were melee, and I was like, do we really want to do this? Because we were talking about it beforehand. We're like, man, this is kind of a cool draft. It's a lot of fun. But everyone was melee, and we won handily. And I was like, man, that is really weird. I mean, we banned out Axe, obviously, in that situation. But I think we had Ursa, and we banned out Axe. So, like, we had certain situations where it was like, oh, yeah, it's being all melee is not that big a deal. The thing is, though, is like, if they would have picked up a Winter Wyvern, that would have been an instant hero death every time, because we were all on top of each other. Like,
I'm actually looking at this game right now, and absolutely, like someone was dead, guaranteed,
yeah,
with a PA and a Lycan. Yeah, it's definitely
P-
a death.
that's right. PA and Lycan. It wasn't Ursa. We did Ursa a different game, but yeah, it just can you imagine like if they picked up Winter Wyvern or a Magnus in that situation, they like didn't have the situation to pick it up, but I was like, man, if they just did that and like ran something weird, it would be insane. And that's kind of I started to think about it. A lot of drafts that people are running, they're either running like super far back people or just like people that get up in their face because they have to because they're all super far back. So I can see Winter Wyvern kind of having that resurgence because it's if you're all grouped up, he's an amazing hero, man. Captain team fight,
Absolutely.
Captain team fight.
Um, I was thinking if Winter Wyvern would counter your draft, but I don't think it would because you're all spread out anyway. You're all ranged,
Yeah,
unless you just group up for some reason. But
yeah.
anyway,
If the thing is like it's actually something that we used to run on Ham, where you would throw corrosive haze out on someone, and then you would just ult with Winter Wyvern, and it's a crazy combo because
yeah,
their armor's still minus, and they just
yeah,
die in 2 seconds. But if you don't have that, like if you have the Slaughter on the other team, it's not that big a deal, and you don't really have that much to worry about because Slaughter's kind of whole damage comes from that corrosive haze. He's really kind of a crappy right clicker. Besides that, he's just there for the stun and the amplify damage.
yeah. I really like Slardar as a support. It's gotten a little bit more popular here recently, I think.
Mhm. It's very strong. It has some serious potential. Um, I ran it all the time as that actually. I personally love it as well. Great minds think alike, man. Um, and that's kind of another thing about the draft that I was thinking about. If you kind of have a situation that I'm kind of going backwards here, but if you have that situation where you think that the lane is too tough for Slardar, you can always just rotate him as a support in the beginning, and then move like Wind Ranger to mid or something like that. And like the idea of having Slardar Wind Ranger as the first two, it's like they can go anywhere, man. They are just
Yeah,
two super versatile heroes.
absolutely. I've even seen some ogre off lane as well. So I think it's not. I don't think that's as good, but it's. I mean, it's pretty versatile with those three heroes. I think because
Yeah,
you could also just set the ogre mid and put the Wind Ranger um, off lane or something like that if you wanted to do that. I was saying that Slardar was having a bad time.
yeah. The thing is, though, I mean, Ogre offlane does work. The thing is it's like if you get Ogre a bunch of farm, though, he doesn't do as much with it
Do
as another.
right.
So, I mean, he exists and he gets the farm when no one else can. But if he is farmed, who really cares? It's a farmed Ogre type
Yeah,
situation.
I think in that kind of situation, you just put Wind Ranger off lane if Slardar's having a tough time or something,
Yeah,
and
or
then
just
just move the
like,
ogre mid or
or I
something.
mean,
I don't know.
or what I would probably do is just like if it's going to be too like a super tough lane and you think that safe lane and mid are going to be fine, actually transfer over Ogre to the off lane like as a support, and then have a Wind Ranger off lane kind of like take over that situation, and then do Slardar support. Like Slardar support with a drow is still really really hard to stop.
Right.
So a lot of potential, a lot of potential. Um, but yeah, I do like your idea about Winter Wyvern, man. I think that I think he's going to be coming back, and especially with Slaughter being so good that he is right now. Like with that hero being so strong, I think I'm going to run more Winter Wyvern. Maybe you can do a Winter Wyvern draft next week, or maybe a Brew. You have a Brew draft next
Maybe a
week,
brew
maybe.
draft. We actually don't play that hero ever.
Oh, really?
Kyrai mentions it, and I'm like, you know, I don't know. Like I like the hero, but then there's some like I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic.
Oh yeah, yeah. We can get into that next week because I'm going to talk about Brew then for my all pick guy.
That
We
sounds good.
gotta talk about that guy. Have to. It's Brewmaster draft.
Right.
All right, cool. Well, is there anything you want to say? Like, I mean, we got time here. You want to talk about anything in particular? Bring up any ideas or anything about these drafts, or anything that you saw, or items that you like to build on? Maybe Winter Wyvern.
I don't think so. I mean, looking at my notes, there's not a whole lot more that I had, if any at all.
Okay.
No.
All right, that's cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for everyone being here. We're gonna close out the show now. Um, put my beer down for a second. Obviously, the most important thing. So we're gonna close out the show. If you guys would like to help us out in any way, there's many different ways you can do that. You can subscribe to any of our videos. You can subscribe to on the Twitch channel that you're watching, twitch.tv/Toffees_Dota2. You can also go to our YouTube channel, which is 5 Midas Gaming, and look at any videos from the flubb date to anything that Toffees is doing. Or, you want to come back and see the amazing man Kimbrell himself. You can always come back weekly here and find him every Monday. We're gonna be doing this every Monday at 4:30 Eastern, so you can always find him here. You can give to our Patreon, and it helps out all three of us. So we're gonna be basically paying for the shows. We're actually under budget right now this month, so if you guys feel the need to give, or the ability to give, it'd be much appreciated. But other than that, it's all good. You can give at www.patreon.com/Toffees. If you guys have any questions for Toffees, me, or Kimbrell, you can follow us at the following different Twitch pages. So Toffees Twitch is _, not underscore, at Toffees TV. You can follow me at flubb, and you can follow Kimbrell at skimbrell_ at the end. Just that little tail at the end. If you have any questions for me on the flubb date, or for any of us in general that you want to ask, I will pass along any information you want to ask, and you can send them to me by Twitter, by tweeting me, or you can send them to my Gmail account, crazyflubb@gmail.com. Well, we forgot to do a sign out, man. I totally forget that every time. So I'm gonna start with this. I'm glad that you guys were here today to share a few brews, and I hope that the rest of the week goes as well as it started right now. Kimbrell, you got anything you want to close out with, or are we good?
I mean, no. I hope everybody has a good week, at least a better week than I've had so far. I definitely hope people come back next week. I actually really enjoyed this. I was a little nervous to start, but I was like, this is just talking about Dota and what I enjoy. So
yeah,
hopefully we see everybody next week.
Yeah, it's just us hanging out, man. Exactly. I mean, that's all what podcasts are, is just us enjoying each other and having a few beers and kicking back and having fun.
Wait, did you finish your beer?
I finished my first beer like 3 minutes in, I feel like.
Okay.
And then I nursed the second one because I was like, I got to slow down. So
I didn't bring a second one. I finished my first one about the same time you did, and I was just like looking around like, no, damn it.
Awesome. That's perfect. Well, also, real quick, I wanted to mention a couple things before we close out the show tonight. Kimbrell obviously is going to, we were talking about this idea, and we kind of have thrown the Brewmaster's draft all at once at him. So he's going to be getting a camera here eventually, here pretty soon, so you can see the beautiful face of Kimbrell here in the next couple weeks. And also, I would like to, even though he told me not to, I'd really like to throw out a shout out to SA51. He is an awesome, awesome guy and set up all of this stuff for us, and I really want to thank him for the brand new logo and the background that he made for us. It's pretty freaking sweet.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's badass. I really liked it.
Yeah. So, once again, I will do a pathetic sign out again and say I had a lot of fun, guys. I'm glad that I could share a brew with you, and I'll see you guys next week. All right, talk to you later.
Bye, guys.